Recognition Sunday. Just want to say how excited we are that you are joining us for today. Whether you're watching this at the front end of the message this morning, or if you're joining us for the Asylum Youth Online message, just join us in recognizing these graduates today. In my hand, I have two of the gifts that we are offering today for graduates, which is a backpack-sized Bible and a devotional that you can continue on in your faith journey after this stage of is ending. So just want to say congratulations again. And we have names of graduates that will be scrolling, especially on the Asylum Youth Online message. If somehow we've missed your name, sadly, we apologize, but come on in. We have extra gift Bibles to go around. But if you see your name, just stop in sometime this week here at the church, and we'll make sure you get the gift Bible in your hands. Thanks again. We'll see you later. Bye. Welcome to Asylum Youth Online. This is a special graduation recognition Sunday. As you saw at the opening of this lesson today, we had a kind of a brief video just highlighting who our graduates are. And again, stop by the church this week to come pick up your graduate recognition Bible, a gift from us to you, and they'll be available here at the church for pickup. Just stop by. And we'll make sure you get your hands on them. Now, as I said, this is a special Graduate Recognition Sunday, and this message is kind of certainly geared towards you, the graduate, but it also is hopefully impactful for anyone else watching, because as much of the lesson is an encouragement, it is also a challenge as well, and it's a challenge that we all should answer each and every day. But the lesson's entitled, "But As For Me," and that comes from Joshua 24. So we're going to be looking at that very quoted verse, that very poignant verse, and we're going to see how that applies to us as well today. So let's talk about the focus of the message. The church, that is the greater church, but also specifically your church, this church, LifePoint Church, and Asylum Youth, has worked many years engaging youth like you, and pastors, youth pastors, teachers, volunteers, dedicated people within the church who have served in ministry to bring about some sort of message to you, some sort of impactful time of learning, whether that's on a mission trip or VBS or something like that, that we've worked tirelessly, and because we have been called to, hoping that somehow we would impact you in a way that you follow hard after Christ, and that you would serve Him on your own. So part of the question we have for you today is, and the question that I pose probably throughout this whole message is, we're going to ask you, as for you, who are you going to serve? So let's jump right in. Let's look at Joshua 24, 1 through 18. There's a lot of reading here, so bear with me, but it's worth it. Then Joshua assembled all the tribes of Israel at Shechem. He summoned the elders, leaders, judges, and officials of Israel, and they presented themselves before God. Joshua said to the people, "This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. Long ago your ancestors, including Terah, the father of Abraham, and Nahor, lived beyond the Euphrates River and worshipped other gods. But I took your father Abraham from the land beyond the Euphrates and led him throughout Canaan and gave him many descendants. I gave him Isaac, and to Isaac I gave him Jacob and Esau. I assigned them the hill country of Seir to Esau, but Jacob and his family went down to Egypt. Then I sent Moses and Aaron. And I afflicted the Egyptians by what I did there. And I brought you out," the old Exodus story. When I brought your people out of Egypt, you came to the sea, and the Egyptians pursued you, and pursued them with chariots and horsemen, and as far as the Red Sea. But they cried to the Lord for help, and he put darkness between you and the Egyptians. He brought the sea over them and covered them. You saw with your own eyes what I did to the Egyptians. Then you lived in the wilderness for a long time. I brought you to the land of the Amorites, who lived east of the Jordan. They fought against you, but I gave them into your hands. I destroyed them from before you, and you took possession of their land. When Balak, son of Zippor, the king of Moab, prepared to fight against Israel, he sent for Balaam, son of Beor, to put a curse on you. But I would not listen to Balaam. So he blessed you again, and again I delivered you out of his hand. Then you crossed the Jordan and came to Jericho. The citizens of Jericho fought against you, as did also the Amorites, Perizzites, Canaanites, Hittites, Girgashites, Hivites, and Jebusites. But I gave them into your hands. I sent the hornet ahead of you, which drove them out of before you. And the two Amorite kings, you did not do this with your own sword and bow. So I gave you the land on which you did not toil, and cities you did not build, and you live in them and eat from their vineyards and olive groves that you did not plant. Now fear the Lord and serve him with all faithfulness. Throw away all the gods of your ancestors that they worshipped beyond the Euphrates River and in Egypt, and serve the Lord. But if serving the Lord seems undesirable to you, then choose for yourselves this day who you will serve, whether the gods your ancestors served beyond the Euphrates, or the gods of Egypt, or the Amorites, in whose land you are living. But as for me and my household, we will serve the Lord. Then the people answered, Far be it from us to forsake the Lord to serve other gods. It was for the Lord our God himself, who brought us out and our parents from out of Egypt, the land of slavery, and performed those great signs before our eyes. He protected us on our entire journey and among the nations through which we traveled. And the Lord drove out before us all the nations, including the Amorites, who lived in the land. We too will serve the Lord because he is our God. Joshua was addressing the people, and the people of Israel, he was addressing them one last time. Joshua, by this point, was a very old man, and still very much the leader of Israel. But as his time was waning, he was making one last address, one last encouragement, one last challenge. In a lot of ways, that is not too dissimilar to you graduates. For your entire lives, think back, you've been told where to go and what to do, when to start and when to end, whatever that might be, whatever chores you've been instructed. You've not really been on your own a lot. But now you're going to be going out on your own, and possibly for some of you for the very first time. So that brings us to our very first point, was that more than anything, God chose first. When God chose Abraham and his descendants, it wasn't on their any great merit of their own. They didn't display anything better or worse than anyone else. He chose them because he wanted to. Joshua wants the people of Israel to know that the reason that they have any kind of relationship with God and other nations don't has nothing to do with them being better or anything like that. Maybe because Abraham was even just willing to have that open relationship with God, that build that relationship, that alone. But again, still God chose first. It was only by the grace and will of God that he is blessed, preserved, and protected them as a nation, as a people. Joshua reminds them at this time, and of all the times God has worked in their favor, he reminds them how God liberated them from slavery, protected them through Egyptian army, and enabled them to cross the Red Sea. He goes on further to remind them of how God protected them in the desert and how he enabled them to win one major military victory after another major military victory. And now he's given them a place of peace, a country to call their own. We are reminded that in the Bible, this is the land of milk and honey, overflowing with milk and honey, which doesn't sound impressive to us. It sounds messy and sticky, but it really means that this place had a bountiful provisions, not just in terms of feeding a nation, but making it at home. A homeland for them, and that's what God has promised. And that is what God promised Abraham when they first established their relationship. So more than anything else, all this happened because God chose them. So remember, God has a choice for us. He approaches us. He comes to us with these opportunities. It's up to us to choose to accept them. So keep that in mind, because not choosing then is also a choice. Next, Joshua tells the people that they have to make a choice, and it is not a choice that they can put off. Sometimes you may be faced with something that you think you can delay or anything like that, but that's not the case. Not choosing is still a choice. The reason Joshua said choose now is because he knew that everyone was going to serve someone or something. If the Israelites were not going to serve the Lord, they were going to be serving something, and whether they intended to or not, something pulls the people in that way. People follow choices. Joshua made the choice. He made it emphatically, but as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. He said, no matter what anyone else is going to do, here's what I'm going to do. And the people followed that example. Again, there's something that I think with all of us, when we know truth and someone is speaking truth, especially a trusted leader, leading path. Again, Joshua's, after Moses, Joshua's leading, his presence was very much an impactful thing. And so when he challenged people to make a choice right then and there, as he had already done, people followed that. People were impacted by that because, again, it wasn't just that it was Joshua. It was God's truth coming out of Joshua. The people wanted an example that they could follow. And again, so seeing Joshua make this choice made it much easier for them to also make that choice. So the same things Joshua told the Israelites 3,000 years ago is still true for us today as Christians. And again, God chose first. The fact that you are sitting here watching this today, maybe with family, maybe by yourself, the fact that you're even watching this today just goes to show the fact that God loves you and wants you to choose him. Indifference, and this is very key to all of this, indifference to God is not an option. Not choosing is a choice. So indifference is when you feel like you can maybe not land on one side of something or another. Again, when it comes to God's truth, and I know there's a lot of discussions going on today about this side and this side and this side. And it can be very daunting, it can be very scary, it can be very confusing, or maybe not seem so confusing. But the fact of it is, in anything else, whether it's any current situation, future situation, we need to kind of put that against what God's word says and where would he lead us to go. And if we're choosing him, then he will lead us in the path of righteousness. But by holding off and waiting and seeing what is most beneficial for us or our situation, that's not a choice. That's kind of an indifference. And that indifference is ultimately a choice, not for God, though. If you wait until you are older, and this is kind of one of the other things, if you think you'll hold off till you're older, maybe more established, maybe you're out of school, maybe you've got a nice job, not just making this much, but making this much, then maybe or maybe you're married, then you'll start taking your faith more seriously. You've already made a choice long before that to not be serving. So waiting till that point, till things are perfect, won't really ever come about. And again, we have to be actively choosing to serve him. And in turn, begin to serve something. If we don't choose actively each day, we ultimately will be serving something else, whether that's money or some sort of other idol. So my question to you, on this day, who will you serve? Do you want to make a difference in your world, in your family, or your legacy? Do you want to, make a difference in those around you, to be a leader? Well, you have to make a choice and follow through with it. People do follow choices. And they don't follow empty words. They don't follow empty actions, or inadequate actions, or you overpromise and underdeliver. People don't follow that. They might for a little bit. People can be fooled for a while, but ultimately people will fall away, will walk away. But they will follow a true decision. They will follow a true action, and they follow their choices. So as you graduate, or if this just finds you today, wherever you are, but as you graduate and begin to experience new freedoms, trials, and temptations, you will find that everyone is serving something. Everyone is serving something. Will you be the one saying, "But as for me, I will serve the Lord"? And that's the challenge for you today, that you can wake up with that in your mind and in your heart, and setting forth each day to choose to serve the Lord. I hope this has been a blessing for you today. I hope it's been a congratulations and an encouragement to you as graduates. And the challenge, again, just for all of us, but specifically for you today, is as this chapter ends and as you move on to a new chapter, that you will have the strength and the encouragement, and certainly the outlook that today you will choose to serve the Lord. We'll talk to you later, and we'll see you hopefully very soon. Bye.